This talk is sponsored by Polygon. Polygon is the leading platform for Ethereum scaling and infrastructure development. Its growing suite of products enables developers to build scalable, user-friendly dApps with low transaction fees without ever sacrificing on security. Learn more at polygon.technology.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Web3 Con Realities of Web3 Recruitment panel. I am DappaDan. I'm a freelance technical writer in the world of Web3, and I'm joined by an amazing panel of esteemed panelists that I will let them introduce themselves. But before we do that, I want to just give some context to this panel and what we're going to talk about today. So there's been many articles written and Twitter spaces about how to get a job in Web3. That's a very important and interesting topic for many people. So I hope this panel sort of adds like a new layer or maybe a little sequel to that type of content, because that's really great to get discussion of, because we have not only people who are hiring or trying to get hired, but also people on the other side of the equation who are doing the hiring or recently transitioned into sort of Web3, or maybe even both of those things. So I think this would be a unique way so we can kind of get if you take on one of those memes, into those expectations and reality. I hope this is that meme, but in talking form for the world of Web3 recruitment and getting hired and hiring. So first I'll introduce our panelists and I will let them do a quick sort of origin story, if you will, not their whole life story, but just kind of what they're doing now in Web3 and what they were doing before, possibly in Web2 or just in the world in general, and just to get an understanding of where everyone's coming from. So, Michael, if you don't go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure thing. So my name is Michael Macaulay. I was originally a full-time YouTuber back in 2017, and what happened was there was the YouTube adpocalypse, and basically advertisements stopped running on a lot of controversial content, and that hit my channel particularly bad. And that was kind of a big wake-up call to get into crypto and decentralized tech, and that's what I've been doing ever since.
Very nice. I didn't know that was a hit in the YouTube videos, but that's interesting. Eric, go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Eric Vander Wal. I'm the head of developer relations at Nervos Network Blockchain. And so I've only been in the space for about a year and a half in blockchain now, but I've been a developer for, I think, about 21 years now. So been through sort of the whole gamut of positions from web developer to game developer, backend, and everything like that. So I think from that sort perspective, it's not too shocking of an entry to move into blockchain, which a lot of people are these days.
Nice. Angie.
Yeah, I was already running a developer relations shop in Web2, I guess. And I started hearing more and more about blockchain technologies. And naturally, as a technologist, I started to look into it and, thought, wow, as I was trying to learn, there weren't enough resources for entry level folks who didn't understand the terminology or know the acronyms and things like that. So it was kind of a red flag to me to say, hey, we need more educators in this space. And that's one of the things that I do best. So that's why I transitioned in. Now I'm working at Block as formerly known as Square as the head of developer relations.
Very nice. Yes, education is needed, and there is way too much acronyms and terminology just thrown around. Like people just surely expect everyone to know what they mean. But that's awesome to hear. And Auston, finally.
Yes, Auston Bunsen, co-founder of QuickNote.com. I first learned about blockchain through a local meetup in Miami in 2011 when I learned about Bitcoin.
Nice. I think also you might have some microphone issues. I don't know if that was just on my side, but while we talk about the topics, maybe you can try to get that fixed. But yeah, I think the best place to start, obviously, is sort of finding jobs or finding candidates. So I think In the past, maybe it worked or maybe not work, but like, there's the LinkedIn spam tactic where either when you're looking for candidates, you get some recruiter and they just like find literally anyone with the name word developer in there, or if you're looking for a job, you just apply to 100 roles every day, and of course you'll get some interviews from that. Maybe in the world of Web3, there's not that many opportunities, or maybe not that many people with the necessary skills. So I just want to see first, maybe Michael, you'll start. Just kind of give me an idea of what your search was like when you went and said, "Hey, I want to move into this space. How do I find a job? What were your sources of that? And generally, what's sort of the experience around that?"
Absolutely. So I had originally been learning front-end development for about a year or two, just kind of on the side, doing some small freelancing stuff, making websites for family and friends and, local businesses, that kind of thing. And I was already interested in crypto, but I kind of had this imposter syndrome of, oh, I'm never going to, be smart enough to be a crypto developer or, in that world. But, after some time I realized that, oh, this is this is an emerging industry and there's a lot of opportunity here. So what I ended up doing was professional, kind of networking, seeing how people do it. I think that's really important. So I kind of made it part of my identity even before I was a full-time employee at a crypto company. And I think that's a really important part, because when I was interviewing there, they were able to see, oh, hey, this guy is really living and breathing this space. And I think that's a really important takeaway. So that worked for me, and I think it can work for anyone who wants to break into this field.
Yep. Shouts out to Developer DAO, highly participating in this program here. So that's a really good point. Involving yourself into the communities and contributing is amazing. I'm curious, Angie, on your side, Block and Square, they made this big kind of commitment and transition there. Were you looking to join a company of that size, or were you looking just broadly on the world of Web3 and blockchain before that, or what sort of attracted you to that? What was your search like as well? We can't hear you, on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, I was already impressed by Square. So I used to work at Twitter, which was like literally right across the street from Square. And Jack Dorsey was the CEO of both companies. And so I already had kind of a peek into Square when working at Twitter. And I was always impressed with the innovation there and their mission to empower people economically, right? And so they've always been for the little guy, the small business owner, the person who's selling products out of their home or their garage or their trunk or whatever, And so I've always been just kind of impressed with what they were doing. And it wasn't until I wasn't even thinking about going into Web3, but Square announced a new division, which is called TBD, that's focused on decentralized exchange. And, I started talking with Jack Dorsey about it, and this role kind of came up, and we thought it would be a good fit. So I didn't even talk to any other companies who are in the Web3 space. This one felt good because, it was a solid company. There is some risk with going into a startup, especially in such a new space, right? So some folks are going to make it, some folks aren't. That's exciting if you're able to take that risk. That's cool. But I wanted something a little bit more solid and a little bit more diverse. So all of Block's business isn't in the crypto space.
Nice. And do you have like a personal line into Jack Dorsey then? Like,
yeah.
You guys are very nice. I think you're probably the first person I know I've ever talked to that. Nice. Okay, Austin. So you downgraded from the AirPods Max to the AirPods for us. Hopefully that will be working a little bit better. I'd love to hear from your side, I guess on the hiring side, what's been like the main sources of finding candidates? Are there any particular, I guess, skill sets or things that shine out more than others? And kind of what, just really the candidate pool has been like on the quick note side.
Yeah. First way start is better.
No, it's not. I think it's actually worse. Maybe it's like, I don't know. It's super strange. But yeah, it's a very robot-esque type sound. Maybe you're going for that. I don't know. Eric, while we wait for Auston, the same question.
Hold on.
Yeah, so, go for it. Try again.
All right. Cool. So the talent pool at QuickNote is good. It's always difficult to find engineers and developers. I'm not talking, not sharing any secrets here. It's been difficult to get a reliable source of candidates, but we pull from everywhere. So like we had some person find us by searching how to do a thing and then applying because they found something on our guides. I have, reached out to my personal network. Other people at the company have reached out to their personal network. So mostly run-of-the-mill stuff. I think one of the sources, though, that is sort of unexpected is Developer DAO. And we've had several applicants from there. We actually have pushed several people through the process. And one of our technical content writers, Noah, is actually a member of Developer DAO. So he's probably the source of all of those applicants. In terms of skill set, depending on the role, it's been, we've had to interview, dozens of people just to get to an offer. And then even at the offer stage, like we're sending very compelling offers. And people are just not necessarily budging, right? So the labor market is tight. And so, we're doing everything we can to make sure our comp packages are attractive. We're fully remote, so no one even needs to go into an office. But, it's a grind.
It is. Is it a grind over in your world, Eric, as well? Or have you figured it out?
Yeah, I'm not sure there's any figuring it out necessarily. It's always a process. That being said, I found that sort of traditional ways of looking for applicants has been a lot less successful for us. So things like, paid advertising, like LinkedIn or these sort of things for job roles is not nearly as good as they are for sort of Web 2 stuff. I think there's a much larger candidate pool for Web 2, and therefore it's sort of easier to find that way. So specifically what I'm hiring for is especially the developer relations department or product teams and things like that. So, so there's always some positions that are for senior developers, and there are some positions that are for junior developers. And the junior developer positions are much easier to fill these days because there's a lot of like new incoming talent for people. The senior positions are extremely hard to fill. And out of actually every position I've filled in the last maybe 9 months or so has been through Twitter, through friends of friends, through Developer DAO, through things like this. Not a single one of them ended up coming through LinkedIn. As much as I would have liked them to, like we interviewed those people, it just didn't end up being so.
Oh, I think maybe LinkedIn has seen its last days of spam importance.
We keep trying, but it's not. It doesn't seem to be a good way. And then when we're hiring candidates, we're looking at things like, are they part of Developer DAO? Are they active on Twitter? Are they talking with people? Are they going to events? Are they building stuff publicly? And those sort of things are much more important in Web3 than they were in Web 2 when it comes to hiring.
I'm curious then, Angie, as well, on your side. I mean, having a kind of a more established kind of Web 2 brand, I guess, and then transitioning into Web 3, do you find that is it I guess, easier on your side, or you having more pull, more recognition there? What's the experience there?
For me or for hiring others?
For hiring others, if you're involved in that as well.
Yeah, so that definitely kind of erases some of the risk, maybe. So okay, it's a company that it has a diversified portfolio, and we've IPO'd, and pretty established company. So that removes some of the risk, but it's still really difficult to find people. One of our recruiters just messaged me yesterday and was like, this LinkedIn stuff is dead. Like, she literally said that, and was like, we need to figure out some other strategies for recruiting people. We've had a couple of recs open for quite a while for blockchain engineers, and just aren't really seeing what you would traditionally see in a Web2 shop.
That's 2 strikes for LinkedIn then. So if we hit another one, we're definitely going to declare LinkedIn dead. But
at
I
least
guess
for Web3, I think it's still
at
working
least for
for
Web3.
Web2.
Okay, yeah, very true. Good point. I don't want Reid Hoffman to come find me. So I guess once you do find the candidates, through Twitter, Developer DAO, from an interview perspective, what is we have a lot of skill sets out here and technologies that are still very new, always changing. I guess just from a hiring perspective first, what's the ways you're trying to vet these candidates that they are who they say they are, have the experience and the technical expertise for something, a moving target daily almost. And what do you kind of recommend are good ways to show your skills there? I'll start with you, Austin, on a QuickNote side. Like, what's the interview process like at QuickNote?
It's basically 3 steps. So we have typically a short written exercise that we have candidates complete. And it's like a 30 to 45 minute, like, here, read this, like write a quick thing. And that's really meant to, filter out people that are not attention or detail oriented, and give us just an idea of how this person communicates. Because we're remote, we need people that are strong writers. So, that's that first step. The second step is a short screen where we, just talk high level about some technical stuff, right? So, like, if we're interviewing a web developer, we'll ask like softball questions, like, what is the HTTP status code for when everything goes correct on a read operation? And then we ask a handful of culture questions against our values. And then after that, we do a 1.5 hour technical. And anyone that gets through that gets an offer. The 1.5 hour technical is 3 questions, typically around debugging, greenfield, and then some thinking or architecture questions.
Nice. I love the softball web depth questions. I can definitely feel to knock those out. And it's really nice. I like this idea about the culture of writing. Not to promote any competitors here, but I know Stripe were the original ones of sort of talking about that. And I'm highly biased on writing as a skill set. So that's great to see. Michael, I guess on your side, when interviewing, what is your experience has been? Is it been more extensive than you expected, or maybe easier than expected, or lenient, I guess? What was it like as a candidate?
Absolutely. So it is really challenging. There were quite a few times when I'd honestly been like worried that, oh, I'm not going to make it to the next round. Because, it's very similar to Web2, where you're going to interview a lot of places. There's going to be multiple steps for interviews. I mean, I think for my current position at LiveArtX, where I'm somewhere between a developer and a writer, I've got a very weird position. But when I was interviewing there, I mean, it was like 3 or 4 interviews in, and I was like, oh man, I'm not sure if I'm going to make it. But you know what? If you just keep going at it, like sooner or later, someone will take a chance on you and they will give you a shot. And then, that's, from there, you just have to do your best. So I think that, it can get very discouraging, but if you hang in there, I promise you will make it sooner or later.
Sooner or later. Words of encouragement. I love it. I love it. Great. And I guess you've done the interviews, successful, like Michael here, and now it's obviously time to talk money, benefits, compensation. I think we've probably all seen some pretty crazy things and crazy numbers thrown out about what you can make in Web3, and those may or may not be true. I saw something like a recruiter offering like 300,000, and they will lick your feet. Some crazy ads like these. I'm curious, Eric, especially on your side, and even on Angie's side, given you have extensive experience on the Web2 side. How do you feel about the compensation? How does it compare to Web2 salaries, and what have you sort of seen as far as like either counter offers or negotiation? What's that experience like? We'll start with you, Eric.
So definitely the offers are higher than they are in Web 2. And I joke that we have regular time, we have startup time, and we have crypto time. And crypto time moves a lot faster. The jobs are a lot more stressful typically because the whole industry pivots faster. And therefore, I feel like you need to be a lot more involved than in Web 2. There's very little coasting in this industry. So that being said, the salary and the pay range is definitely higher, but more is expected from you. And that also means basically there is no like, oh, this isn't my job, right? Like if you need to write something, if you need to talk to people, if you have to do whatever it is, typically everything is a startup type culture, I feel, no matter how big the business type tends to be. So that being said, I typically see salaries between, I would say, the $100,000 and $200,000 range is the more typical range of prices. I've seen online sort of where they're saying like about 120,000 a year US is sort of like the average level. And one of the other really interesting things that we're seeing in Web3 is because so much of it is remote by design, right? We are distributed companies typically by design. That's not by accident. Is that we are much more fair in our pricing of people who are working with us or for us than in Web2. Right? So I don't care what country you're in when I make you an offer. I care essentially what the positions, the value of the position is and sort of the market rate. And I'm not going to say, okay, you're in the EU or you're in Australia or you're wherever in the world, and I'm not going to pay you as much because I don't think your city is as expensive, where I see that happening with Web 2. So I think my tip to people would be, try and know your value and what the market rate is, and don't go down from that just because you're in somewhere that maybe is not traditionally, charging as much for certain positions as other places. And so I want to share one secret, and then I'll jump off here. Is when I started interviewing for positions, for Web 2, there's always a question is, how much did you make at your last job, right? And how much, do you want? Right. And so I tell people secretly, don't tell my boss, is for candidates to always say, well, this is a set position, right? You have a job description and everything else. So you probably have a set pay range. Can you tell me what that pay range is? And I would say 9 times out of 10, companies will tell you what the pay range is if you simply ask. Don't play the game the other way around and start making up numbers, because you have no idea what their pay range is. So don't undercut yourself, and instead just simply ask. Just say, you know what, this is a set job, right? So is there a set pay range you can tell me? And then just start from there.
Nice. That's what we're here for, sharing secrets. So I appreciate that. Angie, what about on your side as far as like, compensation offers? How does that sort of compare to what you've experienced in the Web2 world?
Yeah, I think it's definitely up, but I think Web2 is up as well. I think it's just that time where, everything is just kind of up. What I'm seeing that's really interesting, we don't do this at Block, but with some of the companies, as opposed to offering like stock, they're offering things like, crypto or they can even pay you. I think there is someone on at Block who asked to be paid in Bitcoin versus USD. And some companies are even creating like their own tokens and things like this, and paying you extra, like that would be your equity, I guess. And so that's a really interesting concept. Right now there's a lot of volatility in the market, but if you believe that it's going up, that might be good for you. I personally take my cash in USD. But yeah, I think it's up everywhere. Everything that they said is correct. Depending on the role, if you're an engineer who is transitioning from Web 2 into Web 3, no one's probably going to pay you $500,000, right? And folks need to be pretty realistic about that. Folks are taking a chance on you, right? There's a lot you have to learn and ramp up on, and while you'll get a very nice salary, it might not be the highest ever, or it might not even be what you see on Twitter, because maybe you don't have like the depth of skills that person on Twitter has. You watched one YouTube video about Ethereum, and now you are excited and you want to jump in. Well, that's not worth paying $500,000 on. You don't necessarily have the skills yet. So definitely just be realistic about what you're bringing to the table. Passion is great, but that's not everything, right? And so it's pretty difficult trying to find candidates who have the skills, since it is so new. But you can definitely drive your price up and make yourself more marketable by doing some hands-on work.
Nice. Yeah. I think realism is an essential thing. Even if you did watch a 16-hour YouTube video, shout out to Patrick Collins and his lovely tutorials there. Yeah, definitely having that hands-on knowledge will give you a leg up, especially. I'm curious because Eric already volunteered himself, but is anyone else on the panel receiving some of their compensation in crypto, or Michael or Austin? No.
QuickNote doesn't have a token, so I don't get comped in that.
Yeah, we're flexible. We pay in either our native token, USDC, or fiat. So we allow people to make their own decision about how they want to do it. We don't force anyone to take anything if they don't want to.
Nice. Well, so that we're going down the journey here. We've got the offer out, and now we've accepted the offer, and we're ready to start working. I'm curious from an onboarding perspective. If you work in Web 2 long enough, you start seeing the same tools, the same methodology. So you use Docker. I used Docker in the last job, so things get very familiar and it's very comfortable, especially you get years of experience. But in Web 3, you might be sort of exposed to new tools and new terminologies that you've never had experience to, and you kind of hope your company gives you a leg up or some sort of education and training there. So I guess I'll start with you, Austin. Like, what is sort of the onboarding process at QuickNote, or how do you help people sort of ramp up some skills that they might not have?
Yeah, so this is part of the reason why it's so hard for us to hire. We tend to not hire anyone that doesn't have the skills we need, right? So we're not making bets on younger, junior, mid talent. And that's because we're remote and we need people that we can rely on to get the work done. We need high leverage people. That's not to say that juniors are not, amazing, or mids are not amazing. They are. They just are not a fit for what we need right now. But with that said, the onboarding process at QuickNote is more geared towards getting someone on board QuickNote than on board crypto, because we sort of assume that they have the crypto knowledge. There are operational roles that we have, right? Like, HR or like marketing or whatever, that we tend to do some light training on, but that's not part of the onboarding. That's just sort of like, here are some resources on what MetaMask is and how it works and how you can set a custom RPC and blah, blah, blah. And then there is one sort of role at QuickNote that is slightly, like open to people that don't know everything, and that's a technical writer's role. And that's because, you need to learn a whole lot, right? Like you can't know everything about the EVM before you start writing about the EVM. You can't know everything about, how Solana's token program works before you start writing about Solana. Same thing for UTXOs, et cetera, et cetera. So for those roles, we don't do any onboarding. We optimize for people that know how to self-teach, and we let them run and learn and then share their knowledge. But every single employee that does start at QuickNote does get a full onboarding doc of like, this is your first week. These are the people you should meet. This is the information you should know. Here's all the resources you need, the Slack channels, the applications, et cetera, et cetera. And that's sort of where we stop the onboarding.
Angie, is it the same way at Block? Is it, imagine it's somewhat early days for the, I guess, the whole project or ideal. Is it, really optimizing for senior candidates, or is there room for onboarding and trading on your side?
So here's the thing, and I was listening to Auston, and everything he was saying was correct, but it still felt cringy, because we always want to make room for junior folks. But here's the thing about this space. One, like it's just changing so quickly. No one can hold your hand. Like everybody's trying to learn for themselves, right? And while we can learn together, there's no playbook. If we were to make a playbook, like here's everything you should learn for your onboarding experience, within like 3 to 6 months, that thing is outdated, right? So it becomes a job just to keep it up to date. So you really want to hire people who are self-efficient and they can study this stuff on their own. You may be able to give them some lanes like, hey, we're working with this specific blockchain, this cryptocurrency, these are the things we're focused on. And you can give them like that high level stuff, but it's really on the people, and that sounds horrible when I say it out loud, but it's really on the people to like go and educate themselves on this. When I came on board, like I was just like Auston, I was given like, okay, here's what we do. Here's our product stuff. And it was on me to like fill in the gaps because it was a leap. Like there's some stuff I don't understand in here. So it's on me to like find courses, find resources. There was one course that they offered that I go take, and they pay for it and everything. And that was great. But that was just a small piece of everything that I needed to learn. And it's kind of on me to like figure that stuff out. The other thing is we're working in a space where it's pretty risky business, right? Writing smart contracts and things, your appending to an immutable blockchain. There's not much room for error here. So it's a huge risk to hire people who are just maybe starting out in programming, right? It may not understand just like good, clean coding principles and things like that. So while we hire folks who might not be like a master in blockchain, we at least need them to be a master in software development. And we'll leave the room for them to learn the blockchain pieces, but you got to be self-efficient and learn that stuff. Like no one's sitting down and teaching you everything you need to know. And cringy, but that's the truth,
No, this is why it's called the realities here, people. This is a hard truth. This is what I love to hear. Eric, I'm going to hope you're the hero for the little guy, and you say you take anyone who knows how to use a computer and is ready to go. But yeah, I'm curious, is it the same story on your side as well?
Yes and no. So my team specifically, which I end up doing a lot of hiring for, and it's always difficult to find the right match. So because we're a developer relations team, we do both engineering. So we have a sort of a very engineering heavy side, and we have sort of a community and education side that's very heavy. And we all work together no matter what we do. So when it comes to the engineering side, yes, we don't hire juniors at all, because what we're doing is helping other people who are engineers already typically, right? So they need to have the experience to help people who are juniors. So when it comes to the education, events, and community stuff, we do hire more junior engineers on that side who have the ability to teach, to write, to outreach, to be part of the community, and to really help us understand what's going on in the community and what people are learning, where they're learning, and this sort of stuff. So that gives them an opportunity to improve and sharpen their skills without necessarily being the ones who are writing that immutable code, for a very large company, right? So there is space. So that being said, though, those positions are highly coveted and they go fast, right? Because there are so many new people entering the space that those are the easy, nothing's easy to fill, but those are the easy jobs to fill. The jobs with more experience needed in the engineering side are incredibly difficult to fill. And to fill those jobs, it's not that you just have like 1 year of blockchain experience. I want to see that you have 5 or 6 years of development experience on top of that, right? Solidity is not a beginner's language. And I know we see lots of threads on Twitter and says like, how to kickstart your coding career, a Solidity thread. You don't kickstart your career in Solidity, okay? You do JavaScript first, you do C#, you do Rust, you do Go. I don't care what it is. Pick another language first, then go to Solidity. Because Solidity is not a full programming language, right? It's a very niche type thing. And pick something else first, do it first, build stuff that's not blockchain related. It could be websites, could be games, could be command line applications, whatever. Show me that, then show me your blockchain projects. Then I want to talk to you about working with us. That's the process I want to see. And so I don't care how many tutorials you have or haven't done. I want to see projects done. Even if they're projects from tutorials, do the tutorial projects, change it 10, 20, 30%, show it to me, talk to me about it, be excited about it. And that's where I'm going to talk to you about working with us.
Nice. I really like that step process. That's a better roadmap, I think, than, like you said, jump into Solidity and get that 500K offer that we might see advertised quite often on Twitter. So thanks for that. Mike, go ahead.
I was going to say, listen to people who are doing it, not people who are necessarily just talking about it on Twitter. And there's a difference. Some people are doing both, and that's awesome. And some people aren't, right? So be careful.
Michael, you're our only hope for junior developers. So please tell me, as you who transitioned you just walked into the door, they'd give the handshake, the offer. Please give us hope, Michael. How was your experience from an onboarding perspective and kind of gearing up?
So I was definitely on the junior end of the spectrum. But the thing about it is you have to bring more than just the development side to the table. If you can be like, oh, hey, I also, I do a lot of technical writing. I also do social media really well. I'm also good at all these other things. They're much more, especially in a startup environment, which Web3 very much is. They'll be much more likely to take a chance on you if they see, oh, hey, if it doesn't work out on development, or they can only do some stuff on development, then maybe we'll have them also do some of this and some writing. And there's just so many things that come up when it comes to really making a successful company or a project in this space, that there's just going to be a lot of work that needs to be done. So if you can bring more than just develop, you might be a junior developer. I mean, I was, and my company took a chance on me, but if you've got some other things that you can bring to the table, double down on that too. So just make sure your potential employer knows that.
Nice. I will give that as a ray of hope. I'll put that in the ray of hope category.
I want to give some hope. So if I were a junior developer right now, and I'm like, you know what, I'm very excited about Web3. I really want to get into that space. What would I do to make that happen? I think Eric hit on a key point, is you have to build. The tutorials the tutorials alone are just not enough. You can build stuff on your own. You don't necessarily need to be working for a company. Yes, that does require some of your off time. Unfortunately, that's the game, right? So the time that you're using watching the tutorials or whatever, also build something with that. There's a lot of resources available to show you how to build your first smart contract, how to do this, how to do that. So couple your learnings with actual building and put that on your resume, right? You know that the resumes are going through filters. You know that the recruiters are looking for certain things. Show that you have those things, right? It might not be under a company name, but you can say, hey, here are some Web3 projects that I've built. I've built this DApp and this DApp and that DApp. Point to links and GitHub repos, fizzle in some of those buzzwords. And at least your resume will be looked at. And you'll be looked at as someone who can learn on their own, who can go seek knowledge, who can take that and actually build something.
I'd love
There we
to.
go. Oh, go ahead, Austin. I hope it's positive. We're only doing positive answers only now. So.
I think just building on what was said, right? If you are a junior developer and you do want to get a job in Web3, there's this saying that the front door isn't the only way in. You can always take the back door or the side door, and that's definitely the thing that I want to point out, right? Like, there's always a wedge. Basically, what Michael was saying, where if you can do more than just coding, and you can do technical writing, or you can do social media, you can get in as the social media person and then find an advocate internally to get you onto their team and transition to the career that you want. Or you can find a role that's kind of close to what you're looking for, but not really. And maybe it's grunt work. It's not very fun, right? So there is an open role at QuickNote for this sort of work. It's the documentation writer. All you're doing is staring at docs and understanding them, and then writing what the inputs and outputs are for each function and turning that into HTML and CSS. And so you can take a role like that, and you're not like, oh my God, I'm the best. I'm doing senior level work, but you are in the organization. You do have the upside of the organization, and you can now work your way through the organization to get to the role that you want. So yeah, that's more or less what I think.
There's actually someone on my team who did exactly that. We didn't have any blockchain positions available, but he really wanted to work on that. He just applied for a regular software engineering position at Block, and he figured, okay, I'll get in the company, and I'll learn stuff on my own, and then within a year I'll be able to transfer, which is an easier feat. And he started just kind of contributing and talking in our Slack channels, and we're like, this kid's pretty knowledgeable. And we ended up asking him within a couple of months of him joining the company to actually switch over.
I think another thing that we have in Web3 that people in Web2 don't necessarily have is this ability to contribute to DAOs. There are all these organizations with great missions and great people in there, and you can get in there and you can network, and in a lot of cases you can do it for free. Sometimes you can do it for you just have to buy a single token to technically be part of it. And then once you're in there, you can make serious, real contributions and put that on your resume. I think that is definitively one of the best ways to stand out. Someone may have worked at XYZ company or this or that startup, but if someone's worked for, a really popular DAO that says, oh, hey, this person not only understands, how to do this, really technical stuff, but, they're also involved in the community. They're doing this on their own. And I think that makes people stand out.
Very nice. That's a good. Oh, Eric, more positivity, I hope.
Yeah. So I just want to say about the whole side door route or back door route into the company here is absolutely a good way to go. Pick a company, pick any company, pick MetaMask, pick, or anything from Consensus, pick whatever company you want. Go to their website, check their listing. I guarantee you, in almost all cases here, they're going to have a ton of jobs that are not Web3 engineering related, open positions in HR and marketing and whatever else. So leverage your current career. If you're coming from another career or skill set, get into the company, express your interest. And honestly, being a Web3 company is very difficult to hire for those positions because people only come to you for engineering positions typically. So they're always looking to hire talented people in other positions who actually are interested in Web3 and know about Web3. I'm going to hire the accountant who thinks Web3 is awesome or is interested in it than the accountant who doesn't, all things being equal. So if you have previous job skills, life skills, whatever else, leverage those, get a regular job, and work internally.
Perfect. Well, I had another space for talking about work-life balance in Web3, but since we have ended on such a positive note, I don't want to go there and turn this into back to the negative conversation that we had before. So I do want to thank all the panelists. I think this was really great. Again, some hard truths, some secrets were shared, which is really what the goal was of this conversation from all around both the candidate and the hiring perspective. And I hope this was helpful for you, the audience, on hearing a little bit more about in depth, again, outside of just the Twitter threads and the numbers that get thrown around, like really what it means to get hired in Web3, the skills, the tactics, and again, the methods that will make people successful. So thank you all for joining, and hope everyone's enjoying Web3Con as well.